So, Christina, welcome to the Disenfranchised. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks so much for having me on.
No problem at all. I'm really looking forward to this conversation because I've got quite a few questions about what you're doing right now and what's going on. So, how's things in general for you first, though?
Oh, really, really good. Really busy at the moment. I've just taken on a little dash hunt from over in Korea, a little rescue dog. So it's busy on the business front and at home as well.
It's like having another baby, isn't it? A new pet.
Totally, yeah, totally.
Excellent. Well, look, let's get going with the interview then. And my first question, as always, is what was your first job?
Oh my goodness, I have had loads of jobs over the years, but I guess my first job was when I was 16 and I was doing my A levels. Now it's a little bit grim. I was working in a funeral directors on the weekend, answering telephone calls and showing people through and things like that. So that was my first official job when I was doing my A levels. Um,
How did you come about that job, by the way?
Oh,
That's
it
not.
was one of those things. It's one of those things that came up, and I was young and I just needed some cash. So yeah, I just started doing that, and it fitted in the time slots at weekends, so it was good.
Yes, fair enough. It's not everyone's dream job, though, is it?
It's not.
What would you say is your proper first job then?
I would say my proper first job was when I first went to art college. I was doing art foundation at Newcastle College. So I was working weekends as a receptionist, but I needed some extra income. So I started working at the BT call centre doing telesales 3
Okay.
nights a week, which I know everybody used to turn their nose up at. But actually, it was sort of really good money, and I needed to support myself through college. So yeah, I started doing that.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of people think that kind of telesales side of things is a really undesirable job. But I've done a very small amount of it in the past for myself, and yeah, it's not so bad. At the end of the day, and it's not always fun when people are saying no all the time, or maybe swearing at you. But I think it toughens you up for sales in the long run, right? And there's a lot of nice people out there, so you can have some good conversations. But so art college. Then, what were you doing at art college? It was a foundation course, I think I saw on your
Yeah,
LinkedIn.
yeah. I was doing art foundation, so you sort of did a little bit of everything: a bit of ceramics, a bit of photography, a little bit of fine art. And the plan was to then go on to university once you decided exactly what you wanted to study. Um, but once I started working at the BT Call Centre, um, I was on the home movers team, so it was people who would phone up and they would want to move house. And I'll not lie, when I first started, I absolutely hated it. I couldn't sell for toffee. I would get people coming on the phone, and I would just quickly do the house move, get them off the phone as quick as I possibly could. But at the time, I was at art college through the daytime. I was doing 3 nights a week at the BT call centre, and I was also working as a receptionist at the weekend. And I was at breaking point. I was so tired. I got to a point where I thought something's got to give here. And when I actually looked at it, although I didn't like selling, there was other people in the call centre and on my team who were making over £1,000 bonus a month and who really, really enjoyed it. And back in the 90s, that was a lot of money.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, so what I did is I decided, right, what I need to do is learn how to sell. If I learn how to sell, I'll earn a lot more money than I'm doing at the moment. I can give up my weekend jobs, get my weekend back, because I'm a Geordie and we like to go out partying and buying clothes on a weekend. So so that's what I did. I got my library card. I went down to the local library because that's what you did back in the day.
Yeah.
And I got all the books that I could on selling and sales and how to sell and all this stuff. And I would go in before my shift and I would listen to all the top sellers and I would try and learn what they were doing different to me. And when I was going in, talking to Brenda, having a cup of tea before the shift, they were going in, they were getting straight on the phones, and they were maximising every second that they possibly could. They were asking loads of open questions so they could offer the right solution. They were upselling on every call. And I thought, right, I can do this. Um, so that's exactly what I did. And when you're taking, 100, 200 calls, it doesn't matter if you stuff up the first couple of calls, first 100 calls, you just keep going and keep going. And after the first couple of weeks, I really, really got the hang of it. It just felt like something had clicked. And then after 6 weeks, that was it. My mindset was completely changed. I understood how to sell. And I was then one of those people who was getting over £1,000 bonus. And it meant I could give up my weekend job and actually get my weekends back, which was just amazing.
Yeah, that's cool. So I think it's quite interesting with sales and asking those opening questions. But I think you have to kind of like position yourself as well on the level of the person, so that you're speaking to them as a peer and supporting them with their solve their challenges or their problems, right? And that's something I find fascinating about people when they first go into sales. Is that that first couple of weeks is tough, and you're going to burn through lots of people, that lots of calls and fail completely. But once you start to get your head around it, it makes a lot of sense, and it's quite an enjoyable job, isn't it? In the end, I think.
Oh, totally, totally. It's like anything. I think once I understood what I was doing, that just, I made it just a huge difference. And then once you start to really understand sales and selling, it's not really about selling. You're offering a solution to them. So it becomes a different sort of process.
Yeah, exactly. So, the art foundation course. Then you're obviously quite a creative person. That's something that you've got to clearly decide that's what you want to do. Something like this, right, in the creative space. So, sales is not quite the same, right? I know there can be some creative elements to it, but at this point in your career, were you kind of thinking, right, I just push that to one side now. That won't make me money. What was the thought process?
The truth is, although I did the art foundation and I enjoyed lots of aspects, I didn't have, I want to go to university and do this. I didn't have that set path. However, I was doing really, really well at sales. And I got offered a promotion, coaching people. And I really enjoyed helping people. I really understood sales. And at that time, I thought, you know what? I really want to do this. I can park this and I can come back to the creative side later on when I've decided what I want to do.
Okay, that's fair enough. So, how long were you with BT for?
I think I was with BT about 10 years in total, just over a little bit. So I did loads of things within my corporate career. So I was coaching, I was a sales trainer, a sales manager, and then I eventually went on to project management.
Okay, interesting. So, how and why did it all end?
Well, you've probably heard this story a few times, but basically, I got married and I fell pregnant. And once I was pregnant with my daughter, the project I was working on at the time was in Dublin, and I was working down in Swindon. So I was travelling up and down every week. I was flying over to Dublin. I was working 60 hours a week. And once I had my daughter, something changed in me. I didn't want to do that anymore. I didn't want to spend all of those hours away from home. My priorities changed.
Yeah. So, did you leave the job after she was born? Then.
So I had maternity leave, and I was, that's when I started to really think about what I could possibly do. And I was really quite lucky because voluntary redundancy came up within my sector. So I thought, right, brilliant. This is my chance to do something that I really, really want to do. So, don't cock it up, get it right. Um, so I basically sat down with a huge sheet of paper. I thought, right, what is it that you're good at? What is it that you hate? What is it that you really enjoy? And what is it, I want to spend time with my daughter. What kind of hours do I want to work? And things like that. And I started just doing a big fact find, really, on all of these things. And ceramics was one of the things that I really enjoyed when I was at art college. And I also knew that I only wanted to work term time. I knew that I was good at sales, and I always liked the idea of start my own business as well. So that's when the idea for Popolo Ceramico, which is my first business, which is a ceramics business that specialises in capturing baby and children's hands and footprints, sort of came about, really.
Cool. So you've just mentioned it very casually there that you did this research and just realised that you were good at this, and this. Um, did you find it difficult at all to go through and actually list all those things out? Because I know I did it a few years ago, and I found it really tough to go, who am I? That self-realization bit can be quite difficult, especially when you kind of in a corporate world and other people tell you kind of what to do and where to go. It's quite difficult, right? Or did you not
Oh,
find that? Do you find it?
totally, totally. And these were huge lists of things. I tried to get everything out of my head and written down, and and there's a lot of skills that were on there that I didn't necessarily use at the time, but I would come back to use later on down the line as well.
Okay, so the ceramics side of things, then that's something you quite liked. Um, how did you kind of discover and learn how to have a business in this area? Then, like, talk me through it a little bit, and also, how did you come up with the name of the brand as well?
Well, basically, because I only wanted to work sort of term time seasonally, around Mother's Day, Father's Day, and Christmas, take all the holidays off, have the summer off pretty much. Um, I really decided that I didn't want to have a ceramic cafe because then I would have to be open 24/7. Or I wanted to work my own hours, which is why I decided that what I would do is I was going along to a lot of the mother and baby coffee mornings with my daughter once she was born. And you would see a lot of other franchise brands there, like Usbin Books and Small Prints and different other brands, but I never saw anybody doing ceramics, which is why I thought, actually, you can go with Ceramic Cafe, but they're not specific. They don't specifically do prints. They do some prints, and they also have a lot of children there who paint their own and things like that. I thought if somebody was coming along to these groups, parachuting in, as it were, taking prints, going away, and then delivering them back to group, that's a much better option for me because I've got this little baby, and I thought I could do that. So I contacted my local pottery, and I managed to rent some space in there, and I worked alongside some of the Northeast's best potters whilst I sort of learnt my trade really.
Wow. Yeah, that's cool. So, that was my first thought was, when you're starting out, do you just go and buy a kiln or whatever it is that you need and then just start messing around with it, or do you go and learn it somewhere, or it's quite interesting that you use somebody else's space to start off with and then got that kind of experience of learning from experts as well, which is really cool. So was that the first thing that you did in setting up the business, or did you have other sort of steps you had to go through? Like, I'm just trying to understand that kind of that process, and also what were the challenges you faced in setting it up?
Oh goodness. So yeah, I mean, to be honest, a lot of people do just go and buy a kiln and then set up themselves and do like a 1-day course in how to paint. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to really understand the process. Um, for me, when I was offering ceramics, I love style, I love design and stuff like that. So for me, I really wanted to target parents with my products. So what I did was, whilst I was at the pottery, I was doing loads of testing. I was trying different colours, I was trying different biscuit, I was trying to fire at different temperatures to get a really good combination. And whilst I was doing that, I was also because I had my daughter and I'm quite chatty anyway, I got to know a lot of the group leaders who were doing like mother baby things like music classes and baby massage. I mean, nothing like it was today. I think there was one person doing massage, one person doing music, one person doing like baby and mother coffee mornings. So I would go along to these groups and I would capture their children's prints, and then I would take them back to the pottery, and I would paint them all up at the pottery, get them ready, and then deliver them back to group.
Okay, and you say group. Is this kind of how are you finding these groups of people? Is this like a school or baby NCP groups, or wherever they are?
Yeah, there was often in sort of community centres and places like that where they have like baby music class, which lasts an hour, and they'll have a group leader. So I would sort of piggyback on the back of these classes. you asked about the challenges. I would say my first challenge, I was a little bit naive when I first set up. I had these great products, and what I did was I hired space at a church hall and just didn't really do much marketing and assumed that I would get all of these customers coming to buy these products because they were amazing. And of course, it didn't happen. I got one or two of my mates who, took pity on me and bought a couple of items. And I thought, oh my God, I've given up my career to do this. Oh, and I think that was my wake up call that, I'm going to have to try a lot harder here.
Yeah, it's difficult though, because if you're creating a kind of new niche within an industry, um, it's difficult to know what to do. There's no one else's kind of blueprint to follow, is there? It's all kind of you're making it up as you go along, aren't you?
Oh,
Really?
I honestly, I really was. I mean, I managed to wangle my way into this. It was like a Christmas party, but there was lots of mothers and babies, and I thought that's great. That's my target market. So I went along, and I had a couple of my friends with me. I said I might be busy, so come along. You can give me a hand. Of course, they had no experience, so and busy wasn't the word. I think because all of my products are typical present buying prices, between like £10 and £30, and it was coming up to Christmas and people had babies and they wanted presents. I have never, ever been so busy. I couldn't believe it. Within 2 hours, I'd taken over £500. It was crazy. I was doing prints on a mug. My friend was picking it up, accidentally doing a print on the other side. There was just no real process. And I think it really took me by surprise. And yeah, I think that was the wake-up call I needed to get my processes in place and to start running it like a proper business.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess it must have been quite difficult being a mum at the same time, right? So you've got this new person that's totally dependent and reliant on
Yeah.
you, and it needs a lot of your attention. And then you've started this business which also is similar, right? It needs that attention, it needs that love and care to make it work. Like you say, the kind of marketing side you've got to do. You can't just sit there and let people come, well, people don't just come
Yeah.
to you. So how did you find that kind of contrasting battle between the two?
I think I was quite lucky because of the industry I'd gone into. It was very sort of family orientated. So what I would do at the start when my baby was really small, I would take my baby along to events. And there would be lots of people there who I knew who would be able to look after the baby while I was capturing prints. And then the evening, whilst I was painting the products up and finishing things off, my husband was there to help. So, I was really lucky. I had a good support network around me.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's really good. So, I'm just going to go back to the question I asked a while ago. I think I asked two at the same time, so probably why you missed it. But um, I'm interested to find out why the name, why
Oh,
why
yeah.
Popolo Ceramico? Yeah,
Do you know what? What you tend to find in the sort of ceramic cafe industry is a lot of people will be like targeting children. So it'll be like paint yourself daft, paint yourself potty, paint something. They're all very generic. And I was really wanting to target parents. I wanted to have this really cool product which had a handprint, but really like lovely font and design that went with it. So I wanted to target parents. I wanted a very sort of grown up feel about the brand. And I think Popolo is kind of like population in Italian had, and I thought, oh, it's got a nice feel to it, pottery for the people, and it just kind of sprung from there, and it was so different. I really liked the idea. If somebody typed it into Google, it would be one of the only things that came up. So, yeah, it kind of came from there, really.
that's cool. It's quite a difficult thing, isn't it, to pick a business name? So, how did you find that word in Italian? Like where? Because that's not
Honestly,
something
I
you
think
type in, is it? Like just random
it's
words in Italian, please.
No, it's not. I think it was just one of those things, where you have sort of like a brainstorming session with the guy who was designing my logo. And it was like, what do you think of when you think of ceramics? And you think of good quality ceramics, you think of Italy. I love Italy myself, been on holiday there loads of times. And it was just one of those things where it just came up and we thought, Popolo, yeah. Oh, Popolo, Popolo Ceramics, Popolo Ceramico. It just had a really nice ring to it. Um,
Yeah, no, that's cool. I like it. I think sometimes I get caught up thinking that every brand has this kind of whole story of how they got to that point with the name, but that's quite interesting that you kind of brainstormed and came up with it and looked at Italy as the inspiration and went from there. So that's cool. I think that it's better than just going down that road that a lot of people do, which is just Ed Ceramics or something like that. It makes you stand out from the crowd, definitely. So I want to kind of just ask you a bit about at this point in your kind of time then. So you're building up the business. What kind of became your day to day at this point? What were you doing on a day to day basis? Talk me through like a day in the life of for you.
Yeah, perfect. So basically, once I'd had my daughter, what I would do is I would go along to an event, normally about 1 to 2 hours, capture prints. Then I would come home. The baby would have a nap, so I would sit there, pull out all the things, and finish them off. Put on all of the writing. Baby would wake up, see the baby, and then on a night time, I would then glaze and fire all of the pieces. I
Okay.
had I used to go down to the pottery as well, and by that point I had a small kiln at home as well. So I was doing a little bit of work at the pottery and a little bit of work at home as well.
Okay, that's interesting. So, were you missing the corporate world at all?
No, not at all really at the time. Had I have still had my corporate career to get the good projects, I probably would have still been working away. In which case, I don't think I could have done it anymore. Not with having my daughter.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. So, um, I wanted to find out then because I was looking at your brand and researching it and trying to get my head around. Okay, what's this look like? What's it all about? And I was trying to compare it to who's this interesting to, and I think the COVID situation, the lockdown, this would be the sort of business I could see a lot of people trying to start up on their own, right? And I saw people baking cakes. My sister actually started a dog collar business and things like this, right? So all these creative people started creating stuff.
Oh,
Just
brilliant!
had a bit
Yeah.
more time to do it, right? So what I then kind of my thought process went to is so there's creative people out there and they can create some good stuff, but why is your brand now successful? Why is it still going 10 years later when I think in today, 2 years later, I'm seeing most of those businesses drop off the kind of off of Facebook and places where you see them, right? So what do you think has made your business successful to the point where you've managed to continue to grow it and turn it into a franchise ultimately?
I think it was probably to do with the time that I took at the very start to really learn my trade. So, I think my time at the pottery, what we do is when we fire our pottery much, much higher, and it means it's much more sturdy, it's much more high quality. Um, I also basically tried loads of different paints, loads of different techniques, loads of different fonts to get it completely right. So by the time the product went out there, people were like, wow, I really like this. I want one of those. And I think it just spread word of mouth. And we just got more and more customers, and more groups were hearing about us and wanted to have us in. I was quite lucky because my best friend had been traveling in India at the time, and I was pregnant with my son, and I thought, oh my goodness, I'm going to have 2 kids here. How am I going to do this on my own? And she came back from India. She was also very creative, went to art college with me. She went, oh, I'm looking for a job. I said, great, you can come work with me. So she did. She came and when I had my son, she came and worked with me down at the pottery, and she was, I guess, my manager. And started doing a lot of the group. She started doing a lot of the behind the scenes stuff as well. Um, and it built from there, really.
Yeah, it's great to have somebody that you can kind of trust and help build out that business, especially like you say, with a second child. That's a lot more of your time being taken up, right? So, so how did you get to franchise the business then? So, starting out on your own, mum and part time kind of business to now being a point where you've got some support. How did you get then to kind of that franchising stage,
Oh, it
and
got
why?
it got to a point where we outgrew the pottery. We needed our own studio. So we got a studio in this really lovely art gallery in Newcastle called the Biscuit Factory. It's fab. And it's got loads of artist studios underneath. So we got our own studio. And once we got our own studio, I think things started to really sort of ramp up. We started to get a lot more customers coming down to the studio. We were still going out to the venues. We were getting customers there. And then what happened, we were getting groups from just outside of our area who wanted us to go in there. And, you know, we only had so much kiln capacity. You can only churn out so many products.
Yeah.
So we'd got another couple of printers who would go out to groups and capture the prints and bring the products back. And it was a bit like a conveyor belt. We'd have the products coming in, we'd finish them off, we'd have them going out. And we thought, well, we could get bigger premises. However, you know, there was people who had gone to live away who loved our products, that had second babies, third babies, and they were coming back to see family and friends, and they were getting products made here. And they were saying, oh, wow, I wish you were, you know, down in Leeds, or, you know, I wish you were down in London. And I thought, well, realistically, the only way to grow this business properly will be to franchise it. And also, I knew the position I was in when I left work, and I knew there was loads of other of my friends who were in the same position once they'd had a child. They couldn't go back to their corporate career, and they needed to do something that fitted around family life.
Yeah, sure, and it's difficult, isn't it, to then go out and find a part-time job? There only ever seems to be part-time accountancy roles, and that's not
Yeah, yeah.
everyone's dream, is there? Or maybe retail or something like this. So it makes sense. But did you know about franchising, or is that something you found through research?
Oh, I knew when I'd gone to groups, I knew there was a few groups that I'd been to which had other providers that were going in, like Usman Books went in, Small Prints went in. There was other providers, and I knew that they were franchises, but I didn't have a real clue about what it was all about. So it came about by chance. I'd been thinking about it, and then what happened was I was delivering some orders to a baby class, and the person who was running the class, she was part of a franchise. She was running these baby dance and music classes, and she said, oh, I've just sold my franchise, I'm looking for something else to do. And I thought, right. She said, I'm really creative. I thought, right, this is really good. I've been thinking about franchising, but I said, I'm right at the start of the journey. She'd obviously worked as a franchisee. She understood it a little bit more. The next bit I'm going to tell you is not something I would ever recommend to anybody, ever. I hit really lucky. So she started working as a franchisee without a contract, without anything in place. So it could have gone really badly tits
Yeah.
up. Thankfully, it didn't, but it was really good because she was sort of the next town over, so she was close enough that could keep an eye on what she was doing, but she could go and do her own thing. But I took her on, I think it was 2016, as a pilot for a year, so I could actually test the model to see if it worked. I bought a book called How to Franchise Your Business by Clive Sawyer, and literally I read the book, and it was like my manual to how to start a
Okay.
franchise business. Yeah, and I didn't know anybody else in franchising at this point, I was just winging it, really. So after a year, it was brilliant. And what I did was I was using all of the same techniques that I'd learned in my corporate career. So I was doing, quarterly coaching sessions with my pilot franchisee. I was doing quality checks. We were looking at her KPIs to check, the figures were right, that she was hitting the right amount of groups, getting the correct amount of sales. And so we did all of these kind of things. And then after a year, we looked at it and I thought, this is going to work. We need to roll this out. By which time I'd been working with a solicitor, I'd got a contract in place, I'd got my operations manual written, and I was ready to go.
Excellent. So that's a new challenge for you again, then, isn't it? Really, because that's stepping away from the kind of hands-on creative side to kind of then creating a completely different business, really. So, how did your role? What's your role like now today in the business?
Oh, totally different, totally different. I always wanted to keep the business at a manageable level until both of my kids were at school, because the whole point in it for me was that I say work-life balance, it's more like intertwined really.
Yeah.
But, I did keep it at a manageable level until they were at school. And that's when I started to go back into my sort of corporate role, really, I guess, as a franchisor.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about it like that in some, because I think actually with certain franchises out there, you can go back into a corporate style role by becoming a manager of the business that you've built up, right? And is that an option for the franchisees that are in your network now? Are they able to buy multiple territories and then kind of be the manager, or
Oh,
how?
absolutely, absolutely, yeah. And it is something that some of our branches do. Some of our branches prefer just to do it themselves. So they go to all the groups, they bring all the products back, they make everything themselves, juggling family. I've got other branches where they do run it. So they're the manager, but they have people who go to the groups and capture the prints. They have people who help them behind the scenes, painting everything up, glazing everything, getting them shipped out, which obviously frees up their time to then work on the business.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? It's nice to have that flexible option because it can grow and change as you do. Because I think as people, we all kind of have different wants and desires, and go. I look back at my list I wrote 4 years ago, and I'm not quite, you know, some of the desires that I had on that list. I'm not so worried about them, So it's nice that the model's quite flexible. So, how many franchisees do you have now then?
I have 23 franchisees, and one of my franchisees is Australian, and she's actually looking to take it to Australia as well in the future.
Okay, cool. So yeah, starting to go international then, which is
Yeah,
really good.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
exciting.
exciting times, definitely. So, who do you think is the ideal person then to join your brand? What does your kind of ideal franchisee look like?
Normally, it's normally mums who tend to come on board because they're looking for that flexibility around the children. And I guess with my brand, how a company, how it's different is we work around term time. So you work really hard on the run up to Mother's Day, Father's Day, and Christmas. And you get to take the summer off, really, doing the odd bits and pieces here and there. But it does mean Christmas is very busy, and we need people who are hardworking, and they need to really understand that it is very busy. If you need to take that time off over the summertime, you've got to work at other times to sort of make it up.
Excellent. So I don't want to kind of pin you down to any numbers or anything like this, but is this the sort of business that can earn you, a part-time kind of wage or a full-time kind of salary? Because it sounds like you've worked it around, so you've got the holidays, which is great because you're then not paying for childcare or clubs. You
Yeah.
can spend time with the family, that kind of thing. But that takes away hours that maybe you could be earning. So yeah, returns, are they kind of on a part-time basis or a full-time basis roughly? And I appreciate that's a very
Yeah, it
question
totally
to answer.
depends, because it depends on the size of the branch. We've got people who run it just part time, who earn a good part time wage, who literally just work term time only and take all the holidays off. Whereas what do have other branches who are much bigger, who don't have young children anymore, whose kids are at school, who then in the holidays they go out to holiday clubs and they do paint your own events, and have it as a much more full-time business, so earn, a really good full-time wage for doing that. So I guess it depends what level you have the business at. It's up to the franchisee really what level they want to take it to.
Yeah, that's fair enough. It just nice to know it's flexible, I guess, isn't it? Really. So what's the future then for the brand?
Oh my goodness, we have lots of plans coming up. So what we've done is, because I'm in this industry and because I was used to be in the local pottery and things. A lot of people will come and ask me when they're looking to buy kilns for advice. Um, so I've got a warehouse now where we supply all of our franchisees with products, with all of the bisque and materials that they need. So we're actually going to start selling kilns from there as well. So we're going to have
Okay.
Popolo kilns, and we've also developed an online range. which is Popolo Digital, where people can actually send prints into us and we can digitally put them onto like various different products and post them out, which means we can offer products to areas where we don't currently have a franchisee.
Okay, that's cool. So is that something that the franchisees that you already have or people joining your business can offer as a service as well, as to sell the kilns and things like that? Or is that all done from head office?
With the kilns, they'll be from head office, but with the digital products, it's something that the franchisees can offer when they're out and about as add-ons.
Got you. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, that's really cool. So, um, final question then, on that is just around the people again that you're looking for. Do you think they have to be creative and gone through an art foundation course and stuff like this
Yeah,
to run the business, or?
not at all. We've got our own design team now. I say design team, it's me and Jen. Jen's really creative. So if any of the franchisees need a design for anything, she'll quickly knock something up and send it out to them. And me and her often have sit down and we'll chat about new designs that we want to come out with, which normally ends up in Jen me saying, oh, we need something cool. And I will say, just put a pair of sunglasses on it. Just put a pair of sunglasses, whatever character, that'll make it cool. But no, we've got stencils. So what we do is whenever we design anything, we make sure that it's it's stylish but really easy to copy. So any franchisees, we always say that it's good that they enjoy being creative, because at the end of the day, when it's really busy, most franchisees will have a cup of tea, they'll have the TV on, and they'll be sitting painting things up in the evening when the kids go to sleep. If you're creative, that feels fun, you enjoy doing it. If you're not creative, it very much feels like a chore.
Yeah.
So we look for people who enjoy being creative, but because we've got our own font and we've got our own stencils and our own designs, you don't necessarily have to be creative, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you don't have to be a graphic designer or something like this,
Exactly, yeah,
fully honing your design skills. The design side of it is kind of there, but just
yeah,
enjoying being in that creative process, I guess, is what you're looking for people to
yeah.
want to do anyway. So, all right, that's excellent. So, I've got three questions now that I always ask everybody, and I know you've listened to a couple of the podcasts before, so you probably know what's coming up. So, the first one is: do you have any strange, weird, or funny stories from your career that you're happy to share?
Oh my goodness. But I've got hundreds of funny stories. I've got, like we did Gaz from Geordie Shore. I went down to Leeds for MTV to do his kids' handprints, and you know, his little boy really wasn't playing ball. We've got, I never turned down anything, so we've got loads of people who were like loads of ceramic cafes, and people will go in and say, "Can you do boob cast? Can you do bum cast?" They'll go, "No," but go and see Popolo, they'll do them. So we've done loads of those. But I would say one of the best stories I think I've got would be it was a few years ago now. I rarely took time off at Christmas because it's our busiest time. But I think my kids were around about maybe 3 and 5 or something like that at the time, and we booked Kielder Winter Wonderland for the weekend, which was this lovely log cabin, and they had loads of stuff on for the kids, like little theatres, little people dressed up. They could go make little toys. So we booked it like way in advance, as you have to with these things. And we were on the way down, and I said, "Oh, I'm gonna switch my phone off. I'm not going to work this weekend." And literally, as I said that, my phone rang, and I said, "Well, apart from this one last phone call," and I took the call, and it was from a production company, and they said, "Hi, we really need. We do these. We make these piggy banks." Personalised piggy banks, normally with children's names on and date
Yeah.
of birth, which you can buy online, for £30 for us to make them. So they said, "We really need these piggy banks. We need them in 5 days. How quick can you get them?" And I was about to say, "I'm sorry, but it's Christmas. We're really busy." And then I thought, actually, they've probably phoned a couple of other companies. They're all going to be in the same boat. So I thought, we'll probably have got capacity because I've got a couple of the girls working back at the studio. So I said, "Yeah, we could do it." Because they were saying, "Yeah, it's for this really big client. It's for this really big client. Just name your price, name your price." So I said, "Yeah, we'll do it for like £150 a piggy bank." They said, "Yes, no problem." Oh,
Whoa.
great. So I
Yeah.
think they ordered about 30 piggy banks. So I phoned my colleague. I'm like, look, I'll give you triple time. I'm so sorry. I know it's Christmas. I know you're busy. I know you've had no sleep for weeks. But can you please just do these orders as a rush job? So anyway, we made these bespoke piggy banks. They actually came and picked them up from London in person because they didn't want anything to happen to them. And they went down and they kept going on about how it was this big client, but they couldn't tell us who it is. And anyway, it turned out that it was actually for KFC and it was for their primetime adverts. And our piggy banks were on there getting smashed. I was like, this is absolutely brilliant. So it was one of those things where I'm really pleased I did it. And although, there was a little bit of, when we're watching like the little show that was on, I'd have to keep nipping out, taking a quick phone call. The kids didn't notice. And it also meant the money that we made off the back of that, we could go away again and do something else. So yeah, it
Yeah,
was
wow.
brilliant.
That's awesome. Yeah, and think of all those other people that turned down that business and
Oh, I know. I know.
oh, nice one. Well, that's a really good story. So, my next question then is about any proud or inspiring moments you've had in your career. Well, what's been the most proud or most inspiring moment in your career?
Oh my goodness. I would say it was when my daughter was born because that was when everything changed. That's when I had to rethink my life completely and change everything.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That makes sense, and it sounds like it's for the better as well, right? You've built a great business. You're now doing other things as well, aren't you? So we haven't really dived into them yet, but you've got an international speaker agency you've built up as well. Is that right?
That's right. Yes. Yeah. Through lockdown, as you know, loads of people were doing different things. And because my background's sales and I understand franchise networks, I always ran my team as a sales team. So what would happen is other franchisors would have their AGMs, their annual general meetings, and they would say, "Oh, can you come and talk to my franchisees about sales?" And I would. And there's also Jenny Dunman who runs Daisy First Aid, and she is a mindset trainer as well. So she would go to other people's AGMs talking about mindset. Um, and we were chatting one day about the fact that there was big agencies which had really sort of high profile speakers, but there was no agencies which had speakers that were kind of at our level who knew their stuff but weren't classed as speakers. They were just experts in their field, I guess. So we thought, right, why don't we set up the agency and why don't we set up the agency and we have it targeting SME businesses so experts can come in and they can start their speaker career with us. So yes, that's what we did.
Yeah, that's cool. And what's the take up on that been like?
I think we've got about 28 speakers on our books now, all doing different things: sales, marketing, mindset, health and well-being, loads of different things. So when people contact us, when we do our advertising to the SMEs and people contact us, it means that we can offer them a few different speakers and then they can decide which one they'd like to pick.
Yeah,
Um,
that's cool. Really interesting and a good idea, especially because now being a franchisor, I guess you've got a little bit more connectivity to other franchisors who've probably built up different skills over the years that they can share with other people, right? And so, yeah, it's an interesting concept, and looking forward to seeing that one grow and maybe being a part of one day. You never know.
oh,
So,
totally, that'd be amazing.
awesome. So okay, on to my final question then, because I'm just conscious of time a little bit. We're probably past the hour mark that I asked of you, but um, if you were to speak to somebody who's about to buy a franchise or looking at the franchising industry, whether it's at your brand or any others, what one piece of advice would you give to them?
Ooh, I would say that make sure your values are aligned with the franchise brand that you're buying into because that is so important. Whenever whenever I'm interviewing a potential franchisee, I ask them a lot of questions to make sure that their values are the same, and I also explain what our values are to make sure that we're going to get on and that they're going to be able to make a go of the business. They know what to expect of me, and vice versa.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting and very valid point as well, because I think That's the reason why a lot of people leave a job anyway. It's because their values aren't aligned with the company they're working for. Um, yeah, it makes complete sense. And if your values are aligned, you're more likely to be happy. You're more likely to work hard and be willing to work those extra hours, I guess, when KFC come calling and want a few more piggy banks. So
Yeah.
makes sense. All right, brilliant. Well, Christina, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for sharing your stories and the story of how your brand Popolo Ceramico was built, and for your advice as well. So, thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on. It's been really, really lovely to come on the show and talk to you as well. It's been great.
Awesome. Thank you. Take care then. Bye bye.
Brilliant. Thanks, Bye.